What's up, everyone? Welcome into Mikey's Boardroom. I am Mikey.
I'm Krista.
And this is our boardroom. Tonight we're going to be reviewing Western Legends. We just put out an unboxing of it and a gameplay of it, so now we're going to give a quick little review of what we think of it at 2 players. Primarily, all of our reviews will be based on 2-player playthroughs. So basically, I'm going to follow the BoardGameCo review format. I think is a pretty good one. What I like, what I don't like, and then what I think other people might not like. Western Legends has been out for a while, though, so there's lots of resources. I feel like there's lots of good ways to find out if this is a good game for you or not. So let's just dive straight into it. Western Legends is a sandbox-style game where you can kind of, go out and do whatever, all sorts of Wild West things, play poker. You can duel each other, rob each other. You can get wanted points. You can get marshal points. The marshal players can arrest the wanted players. There's a sheriff that goes around. There's story cards. There's poker cards. They all have actions on them. You can buy items, weapons, upgrade those items, buy mounts, dig for gold. Basically do a ton of different Wild West themed activities, and you just want to gain legendary points and hit a certain number, 15, 20, or 25, and if you do that and then the game ends and you have the most, you win. So pretty standard game. Easy. Basically what you think of if I said a Wild West sandbox game, except this one doesn't have Will Smith, unfortunately. So let's just dive straight into it. So basically we're going to start with what I liked about the game. First thing I really liked about the game is just the theme. I am biased towards the Wild West theme. I love Wild West movies, video games, board games, anything Wild West I'm partial to. And I know you're probably the opposite.
I'm the opposite, but this game did draw me in. I have to say, I liked all the
look of the board and everything. Yeah,
I did. And the cards are cool too. And I like
everything's nice. Everything's very nice. Yeah, the art's very nice.
The description on the cards I like.
It's just really, really well done. Looks really, really cool.
Yeah, it's immersive.
So the art, you like the art and everything?
I do. Well, and I like the descriptions and they're real people. I like that too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All the playable characters are playable.
I like history.
Real people. So I'm like, I have Jesse James right here.
And it tells you a little snippet.
Tells you a little bit about them on the back. Mm-hmm. And there's, I don't remember how many player or characters there are, but there's a good amount of characters. You can play this game up to 6 people, so there's plenty. Another thing I really, really like about this game is there's plenty of ways to interact with other players. It's not really I do my thing and you do your thing and whoever does it better is going to win. It's definitely it drives player interaction with robbing each other, arresting each other. The story cards allow someone to send the sheriff anywhere on the board or move the sheriff so you can move him towards other players. You can play poker with other players, or you can play it just against the dealer who's actually going to be another player who steps in for that. So there's lots of interaction. Basically, the more people playing this game, the better, I feel like. And we'll cover a little bit of the negatives with 2 players in a bit. But yeah, definitely love the player interaction and just all the drive towards people doing things together and going against each other.
But it's easy to not do that.
It's easy to not do that at 2 players.
Yes.
And I was going to cover that in the things that people...
Because I'm not geared towards that at all. I'm more of like a let me do my thing.
Yeah, that's fine. I just mean, it definitely is... Like, at the lower player counts, you can definitely play the whole game and not interact with anybody. But that's a point in what I didn't like about the game or what I feel like other people might not like.
Which I did like that about it because I didn't feel like I had to go and attack you. But you could also attack me. So it was... I don't know.
There wasn't somebody always interrupting your plans.
Yes. Exactly. I don't like to be interrupted. My kids interrupt
Just let me prospect for gold.
Exactly.
So another thing that I really liked is the card powers. Using all the card powers is really, really fun. I thought so. Some cards are reactions. So after this one, for instance, says after you gain any number of marshal or wanted points, you play this card from your hand to gain 1 LP. And that's probably not the best example because it's kind of a boring one. But there's lots of ones that you can use in like when you're playing poker. There's one called Cheat. And I think it's a 2. And if you play that card during poker, you can use it as any card you want.
Right, yeah.
So it's good, lots of fun ones like that. Things that'll help you move more, things that'll help you, just help you in different various ways, whether it's in a fight, whether it's just using it as an action or whatever. The card powers are a lot of fun. I really like the card powers.
I do too. It's hard though. I forget that they're there.
Yeah. All right, and then the last point I have on something that I really, really like is the marshal track and the wanted track. I feel like including that in the game makes the game, I don't know, just a lot. If without that, it would just feel bland, in my opinion. Yeah. Even though you can still do all these things, but having a martial track and a wanted track to move yourself up on, and
it gives you a goal.
Exactly, and they give you bonuses as you make your way up the wanted track. You get bonuses as you make your way up the martial track. You get money, and then each one gets different legendary point bonuses. So like the wanted track, you get a legendary point every turn, whereas the martial track at the game's end, you get a certain amount of legendary tokens, which you can reveal, and they're worth 2 legendary points or 3 legendary points or 1 legendary point. So there's advantages and disadvantages to both. Like one is, I think martial track is harder to martial points are actually harder to get.
It's harder, definitely.
But they can give you more legendary points if you draw the right tokens. So
they're hard to maintain too, because like you can't do anything bad.
Exactly, yeah. So if you're on the martial track and you do something that would give you a wanted point, you lose all your martial points and you go to the wanted track. And likewise, if you're on the wanted track,
start over.
And yeah, if you're on the wanted track and you get arrested by either the sheriff or a martial player, you lose all your wanted points. And so it just gives it a little extra. It gives you something else to like aim for in the game, go for another goal, and then it gives you another way to kind of mess with other people or step in and foil their plans.
I do agree that if it wasn't for that, it wouldn't be as good.
Would not be as good in my opinion. Yeah. Okay, so now moving on to the things I didn't like. So now we're going to talk about the two-player game.
Dun, dun.
So at 2 players, the interaction is definitely forced. And what I mean by that is at 2 players, if you want there to be player interaction, you have to make it a goal of yours to interact with the other player. At the higher player counts, you're going to end up being in the same town as somebody else, or you're going to be next to somebody else, or somebody's going to be...
It's more fun to play poker.
Exactly. Like when you play poker in town, there's most likely going to be somebody else in town that can join in and play poker with you. Whereas at 2 players, it's like, I'm going to play poker. She's probably over here.
Yeah.
So if you're not trying to stay together, which is kind of how I played it when we did our playthrough, I was trying to stay together to make the interaction, because it's... at 2 players, you could prospect for gold down here, and I could prospect for gold up here, and we could just roll gold dice and deposit the gold, and then the man in black would have some what am I trying to say? He would have some. He would do some stuff.
He would be a scoundrel.
Exactly. Like he'll like some of his cards. Like let's see what this one says. Both players discard 1 poker card. Oh no. Sometimes he gives us a wound. Sometimes he'll go to whoever's in the lead and he'll go to their space and fight them. So he does foil plans a little bit, but if we wanted to, we could just do our own thing, not even pay each other any mind. Yeah, and so it's definitely better. This game is better when you're interacting. Even though you want to just do your thing, it's a better game when I stop you.
Unless you take all my money.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't really mind it that much, because I just know that when we play this, I'm gonna just go around and kind of be close to you and interact with you. Exactly. But you could easily play this game at 2 players and probably even 3 players and kind of not really interact with each other at all, and that would just, in my opinion, that would just make for a boring game.
Yeah, it's not one I would pull off the shelf very often. Yeah. But like, it's a good game. It's well done.
It's fairly easy to explain, fairly easy to comprehend. So at those higher player counts, it's definitely
the goal cards. I think would make it fun with 2 players.
Yeah, goal
because
cards.
I focused on my goals, and so I was constantly doing things, and I wasn't realizing that nothing was really happening.
Exactly. So goal cards, they give you little other objectives to go for to get these legendary tokens. So like something like deposit 4 gold nuggets or more at the bank.
And one of mine even related to like the water track. So it was like, to complete that goal, you have to get to a certain number on the water track. So then I was trying to do things to get higher on the water track.
Exactly. So it definitely spices it up a little bit.
Definitely.
So that was my first negative, is that 2-player, the interaction, you have to really push for it. It's not just going to happen on its own. The game's not going to make it happen.
Yeah.
The second negative is also in regards to 2 players. The man in black does not feel substantial, and I kind of already mentioned that.
It does when you do your voice.
Yes, that's true. I presume the gun strapped to your hip ain't a decoration. Neither is mine. It doesn't feel like a substantial AI. Like in Dune, the AI feels a lot better. The AI beat us a couple times. I mean, it's just because he'll take your spot, or he'll put a bunch of troops in the battle. But in this, it's basically, he's going to go to this bandit hideout and clear it out, and then you're going to get a wound. Yeah. Or he's going to do this, and then, like I said, you discard 1 poker card. Or sometimes he'll fight and arrest the player in the lead, which is the most he definitely will like mess with you. But other than that, it just doesn't feel like a third player or really a substantial alternative to having more people in the game. So that's my other negative.
Yeah, I agree.
My last negative is that the story cards feel kind of disconnected from the game.
Yeah, for sure.
So like, hey, we completed a story card, and then it has like a little tribe, or a little blurb about, like, this one's about the tribes of the Mesa. So it has a little blurb about it, and then it just says players that contributed to this gain a legendary point, and they can discard 1 poker card to lose all wounds. Yeah. That's it. So there's not really. I wish there was like a little bit more. So we did have one in the playthrough where it was like outlaws came to town, and we ended up having to fight them for that story card. And I liked that. I wanted more of that. Yeah. I wish there was more things where it like maybe took us from where we are and it put us all in one spot in a
interaction.
Exactly, in a spot, and then something happened there where we either fought each other or fought an enemy that was even like harder or something like that. Yeah. I don't really know how the best way to go about that would be. Yeah. But in my opinion, the story cards just felt disconnected. It was like, oh, we did a story card. Yeah. Let's read this little blurb, find out if we're gonna gain points or get a poker card or what, and then move the sheriff. So
yeah, I agree.
That was the only other little negative.
I agree, and I didn't even know that I agreed.
So then that's basically what I liked and what I didn't like. That kind of covers it. So just a couple points that you might not like this game if you're looking at it is, one, it's a sandbox style game. So you just kind of go and you kind of do whatever you want and gain points for doing those things. So if that's not the type of game you like, you're not going to like this game. Unless you have 6 people playing and, I don't know, you're all hanging out drinking, then I guess you could just have a good time. But if you're playing it for the game and you don't like sandbox style games, it's definitely not going to win you over to the side of it. And then my last little thing on what you might not like is that it's not very balanced. Like, everybody has a player or a person as they play as, and they all have a special ability. And sometimes you're just going to find yourself at a disadvantage against somebody in certain situations, no matter what. So like Jesse James, in a fight outside of town, I can decrease the value of a card played against me by 1, and in a fight against another player, I always win. So if that's going to frustrate you, in that I'm always going to win a tie, and if we're out of town, I'm always going to be able to decrease your card by 1. That can be frustrating if you don't like that sort of imbalance in games. If you want it to be more balanced or more fair. Let's see what yours is. Yours, Stagecoach Mary Fields. At the start of this turn, you gain $10, and after you contribute to a story card, you gain $10. So, in my opinion, Jesse James is the better ability. This one gets you money, but
no, I beat you with her.
That's true. That's true.
And I didn't even use the last half of that. I didn't realize that.
You didn't even finish reading the card.
I didn't. All I did was $10 at the beginning of every turn.
So she had a lot of money, but I was able to decrease the value. So
I still won.
It's not super balanced, but it's also everybody gets an advantage. It doesn't. But if you want, if that's going to annoy you, where it's like, oh my gosh, I have to fight this guy again, he's always going to decrease the value of my card, and that's going to frustrate you. There are other, a bunch of other characters you can play as, and they all have.
That would add some fun though, like if Jesse James was chasing around Mary Fields. Yeah. So that's a way that like you can interact.
I agree. I think it's fun too. I personally like the abilities, but some people might not, and so I just wanted to highlight that.
Nitpicky.
Maybe I'm just being nitpicky. If everybody's like, that's a stupid thing, let me know. Give me that comment. Help that algorithm. That's basically it, though. That's all that I had. Final rating. I feel like the game is a 4 out of 5, but for me personally and how I play games, which is primarily at 2 players, I would say it's a 3 out of 5. In that, if she wanted to play it, I'd be like, sure, let's play it. But I would probably never say, let's play Western Legends tonight with just 2 people. If that makes sense. So quality-wise, it's definitely a 4 out of 5. But just for us.
Yeah, quality, I'd say 4 out of 5 for sure. It's a well-built game. But I'd give it like 2.5.
2.5? Well, what's a 2.5 to you?
Like, if you asked me to play it, I would ask if we could play
something
like
else?
A different game.
Okay. That's fair.
But it's not horrible. Like, if you really wanted to play it, I'd be like, okay. And I would probably have like a nice rum and coke to play.
That's fair. I definitely think...
But it was worth playing.
It's definitely fun.
It was worth playing.
Yeah.
It's like that movie that you see where it's like, that wasn't a waste of time, but I didn't really enjoy it. That's kind of how I feel about it. Yeah. Not a waste of time. Didn't enjoy it.
It was palatable.
Yeah. But it's really well done.
Yeah. And like I say, if you play mainly in a game group of like 4 people or more, then I would say that this one is definitely worth looking.
I just feel like it lacks replayability. Like, it's the same thing. Every time you play it, we've played it a few times. And that's a huge thing for me, is I want to feel like I want to keep playing.
There's a lot of stuff to do, but it all feels kind of the same.
It's the same. You travel the same,
path
I go this many
every time you get gold, and then I'm going to play poker. So
yeah, and so that's a big thing for me.
Okay. That's fair.
And there's no gotcha moment. Or take that moment.
You could rob me. You just can't.
It's not going to destroy you. Just take half your money.
Yeah, exactly. Or half my gold nuggets.
It's just, I don't know. There's no
That's fair. So are we keeping it or are we getting rid of it?
I would probably keep it for a little bit to try and play with a bigger group of people and get like a different aspect of it because it's really well done. Like there's not really anything wrong with it. It's just kind of boring with 2 people. So I'd probably keep it until we can play with like 2 more people.
With 4, like a 4 or 5.
But yeah, like 4 to 5 people. I feel like that would add a lot of dimension.
That's fair.
An activity.
All right. So that's our review. And just a little explanation is she's very hard to please.
I am
She likes playing games and she'll play all sorts of games, but she's very, very hard to please when it comes to board games. It takes, I don't know what it takes.
Open-minded.
Yes, you're very open-minded.
Replayability. I don't like doing the same thing over
You're not closed-minded. I don't mean that. I just mean like you're hard to, like it takes a lot for you to really like a board game.
You just, there's not enough time in life
to agree
play games that aren't fantastic.
I pretty much like every board game I've played, mostly, but it takes a lot for me to really love a board game. And be like, I want to play this, I can't get enough of this.
Yeah.
It takes a lot for the board game to be like that, so. Yeah. But there's a nice little general store.
Oh my gosh. That is the worst part of the game.
You will feel like an idiot trying to put this together.
Building that was
You will feel like an idiot. And you go to the official, video to watch, and even she, messes up, and she's like, oh, wait, that's not what I want to do.
It looks really cool. We're never taking it apart unless we get rid of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's cute.
All right, so that is all we have for you. So thank you so much for tuning in. Unboxing and the playthrough will be linked in the comments or in the description if you want to pop over and take a look at either of those. And yeah, we just are very thankful that you popped in and watched our video. If you could comment, let us know how ugly we are, or subscribe or like our video, or just if nothing, just thanks so much for popping in. Have a great rest of your day. All right, now you get to put this away.